Brett Blackledge is joining us in studio. You were one of the editors who helped put together this report. Where did it emanate from?
Well, several years ago, one of our reporters who worked on the series, Maria Perez, before she came to the Naples Daily News, she worked in Miami as a reporter, and she covered some of the deaths that were happening in the cosmetic surgery centers. She was always interested in digging deeper into that. So last year, we came up with a plan to try to look at what was happening in these centers.
It is excellent reporting, something people wouldn't know otherwise. To kind of set the stage, these are kind of surgery centers in a sense, but in a strip mall?
Yeah, so these are cosmetic surgery centers that are located in a place where you might have, in this case, particularly one of the clinics we're writing about, is between a barbershop and a shoe store. And the only way you know that it is practicing cosmetic surgery is that on its storefront is the word surgery across there. But it's basically a storefront, and the patients come in, they are in a waiting room, they're brought to the back, they have the procedure, and they're escorted out.
It's really fascinating, the whole dynamic of that and how they really get customers or patients from across the country. People could be traveling from Southwest Florida over there because they advertise to a certain demographic of people to come to this, you called it, I believe, a factory kind of surgery? Well,
that's a really good point. And what was fascinating, the reporters found that so many people from across the country came to particularly these two clinics, and they were attracted by the cheap prices, they were attracted by the advertising, the social media reach, that this was a really aggressive, modern take on how to attract patients to your clinic. And also the prices. The prices they were offering for procedures were half or less than what you would see from a traditional clinic.
And they were making their money by volume, doing them pretty much all day long, just kind of in and out with patients, and that's probably part of the cost cutting?
That's correct. And one of the things that the reporters identified, these clinics might be doing, a surgeon might do 8 procedures a day. The standard that the Plastic Surgery Association would recommend is closer to like 4 a day. So you do that, you limit the number of procedures so that you don't have fatigue for the doctors, so that there's caution and care presented in the procedure. But in this clinic and some others that were identified, that wasn't the norm.
And because of that, the nature you have identified of it kind of being a production schedule operation, what types of injuries were resulting in death in many cases?
Yes. Well, again, Mike Sala and Maria Perez, the reporters working on this, identified through exhaustive research a number of deaths and a number of injuries. The injuries were ranging from punctured organs. In some cases, there were problems, there were complications that weren't properly cared for at the time, right after the surgery, and that led to a particular complication or injury. And of course, they did identify 8 deaths, particularly at these 2 clinics. Now, that's relevant because they, in their reporting, were able to establish that these 2 clinics in Florida represented a number of deaths that were about 1 in 5 of all plastic surgery deaths in the state of Florida. And of course, we're known for our sense of beauty, and everybody's on the beach, and there's an attraction to everyone across the country to come here.
In South Beach and Miami in particular is known as a very fashion-forward kind of destination for people, which kind of brings me to one of these high-risk maybe procedures that's very popular there, the Brazilian butt lift. That seemed to be one of the particularly dangerous in this setting.
Yes,
techniques.
and their reporting identified that this particular procedure has come under review by the experts in the field. Yeah, they've established that there are concerns about the way the procedure is being performed, particularly by doctors who aren't board-certified plastic surgeons. In other words, doctors who have gone through extensive training, who have passed a series of rigorous tests.
That would be the board certified.
That would establish their ability as a board certified plastic surgeon. Some of these surgeons at these 2 clinics or not board certified, and they were performing some of these procedures. 4 of the 8 deaths that Mike and Maria identified were after the Brazilian butt lift. It's a particularly risky procedure because of the way that the procedure injects fat taken from the patient into the buttocks, and it can cause tears in veins, and sometimes that fat can get sent into their heart
places
and into lungs for an embolism. It flows through the veins that are torn.
Now, you discovered that this dual clinic operation had a lot of problems. Are you done with the state of Florida and plastic surgery operations?
No, actually they have been doing an extensive amount of reporting. This story seemed like the right one to do first because it really is a way to look at one business that is basically a couple of cosmetic surgery centers owned by the same person. And this business, which has had the largest number of deaths than any other in the state of Florida, and by the way, the vast majority of clinics never have a death. This is not common. I mean, this is not supposed to be a procedure that leads to death. But what they found is that there are many clinics in the state of Florida, like this one, that operate in a similar way, offering discounts. They do a high number of volume. They have doctors and surgeons who are not board certified.
That's kind of your setup for potential disaster.
They make their pitch for patients through modern advertising means, social media, things like Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, and they are attracting patients that way, and really sort of a new, younger, working class patient, oftentimes minorities, and they are attracted to this Brazilian butt lift procedure, which is part of, I guess, our new modern norm of beauty.
You mentioned Instagram and social media, and I think there is a lot of pressure. People see celebrities with certain body shapes and types and want to emulate that if they can find a good cost. What can consumers do if they are interested in some kind of procedures? Are there any safeguards that or suggestions you have?
There are, yeah. Mike and Maria have outlined a series of steps, and we do have this on the website at naplesnews.com. There are a series of steps that if you're considering cosmetic surgery, here are the things you should do. For example, make sure you look at whether or not your surgeon is board certified. There are ways, and this is available on the website, that you at your computer can look this up.
Find out how knowledgeable and experienced they are with this.
Right, and that's an important thing, and have a real serious conversation about it. Price isn't always the best choice and the best reason to to make that choice. There are other tips they make. For example, ensure that there are no past problems that the doctor or the clinic you're going to go to have had, and these are things that you can look at.
That can be tricky when they change names, which we also demonstrated in that story, but a lot of really useful information, and I know that you're not done yet, so everybody will have to stay tuned to see what's happening in the community.
Great.